Well, good afternoon, or at least it's afternoon when I'm recording this, but I am glad you are here for part two. I hope you've had a chance to really go through part one. If not, I encourage you to get that done uh, before starting this one. So that's the great thing about recorded classes and programs is it's at your own pace. So there's no hurry to get anything done in a week or a few days or whatever. This is meant to be able to go back and review and just continue to learn from and really the goal of this in fact as I was putting all the content together, especially for this part two, I realized that this really needed to be about a 5 or a 6 hour course. So, with that said, it's not that. I promise you, this will just be one more hour. But really, the goal of this, and because it's only a 2 hour course, is really just to get your brain to thinking and being aware of what's in labels and really to inspire you and to give you enough knowledge and information to be able to do your own due diligence and to continue your learning. And of course, you always have me as a resource. But my goal, I guess, really is as you've completed module one, is that you're going from, hey, I didn't know this. And then in module two, by the time you finish that, you're going to be thinking, hey, not only did I not know this, but it's not so overwhelming now. And I can actually do this. I can actually make some changes to start improving my health and my family's health. So that is the goal for us here. Let's go ahead and get started uh, with we touched on ultra processed foods last week in module one, and we're going to dive in quite a bit deeper. So some of this might be a recap or a repeat, but really it's to dive in deeper. And I don't know if you can see that toolbar or not, but it's really in the way of my slides, it looks like. So hopefully it won't be when the recording comes out. So ultra processed foods, just first a little bit of a definition for you. They're going to be characterized by their extensive industrial processing. This involves the use of additives, preservatives, artificial flavors, emulsifiers that enhance the taste, texture, and shelf life. And they typically undergo many stages of processing, stripping the food that some of the in fact, I always say processed food is really not food at all, but whatever little bit of food is actually in there, it strips that food of their natural nutrients and fiber, which can contribute to inflammation and negatively impact gut health. And we're going to be talking about both of those a little bit later today. But they're also engineered to be hyper palatable, which means you get addicted to these and you get addicted to the taste, but it's really not the taste of the food that you're tasting. It's all of those chemicals that I just talked about. And this is going to just be a cycle that leads to intense cravings and food addiction, as I mentioned. And what this does is it triggers reward pathways in the brain, and that's hard to fight. So when we talk about willpower, it's not don't think about it as willpower. Think or that you need more willpower. Think about it about changing some things so you don't have that trigger in the brain. And that's why I always say this is meant to be done in steps and in stages. So and one of the things I do want to bring your attention to at the bottom of the screen is not all processed foods are detrimental to health. Frozen vegetables, I think these, and I buy most of these in organic. Some are more important to buy organic than others, and that's something you'll have to research on your own. I'll just throw corn in there. That would be the number one frozen vegetable, or even non-frozen corn, just because of the high GMO um, and everything that it contains. But that's one I would definitely buy organic. But frozen vegetables, clean canned beans, tomato products, sauces, that kind of depends. We're going to talk a little bit more about that to get you clear on that, as they can vary. Some can contain added sugars, preservatives, while others are just made from whole ingredients. So again, the key lies in reading the labels and understanding the difference between minimally processed and, you know, minimally processed, that can be a part of a balanced diet in moderation, and then the ultra processed options, which are really, you might want to start out consuming them in moderation and cutting back, and the ultimate goal, in my opinion, would be to completely cut out these ultra processed foods from your diet. So you'll see quite a few over there. And, you know, I think last week on this slide, this processed food slide, I had metabolic disease up in the top right. And I changed that out to let you know that really this list of diseases you say, and this is not even complete, but these are all triggered from inflammation, and processed food that's one of the main things, not the only thing, but one of the main things that is affecting your health. Is they increase the inflammation going on in your body, whether it's hidden or not. When you have inflammation, that just means, even if you're not experiencing symptoms now, that just means disease in your future, more than likely, or at least you're putting yourself at a higher risk. And the good news is, and this is just one doctor I quoted, but you can go to you can find this in numerous reputable resources, that all these diseases are reversible. Not, removing the ultra processed foods from our diet is going to help so much, and so many ways. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention before or as we move on, I guess. So again, ultra processed foods, industrial processing methods, these are ingredients you wouldn't usually find in your home pantry. So when you're looking at a label, if that's something if it has on the ingredient list something you wouldn't normally find in your pantry, that's probably nothing you want to purchase as well. These methods and a lot of these ingredients that you see here, and some of this stuff is going to shock you, and I'll get to that in a second. That's why I have that shocked look on her face there. But most of these products here include, a lot of highly processed or extrusion processes, molding, chemical modification, hydrogenation. You should be familiar with that word by now. That's just something that another processing they do, which turns liquid unsaturated fat into a more solid form. This is especially true in the margarines and things. And what you have to understand too is manufacturers don't need to state the processes that foods undergo on the label. So it can be challenging to identify the ultra processed food, but as always, the best place to start is that ingredient list. And that'll pretty much, once you start really looking at that, just as a glance, you don't have to spend a lot of time, but just a glance, you'll start recognizing, put that back, it's ultra processed. So again, a little review as we've talked about some of this, processed versions of protein, fiber, such as whey powder or inulin, maltodextrin, that's an intensely processed carbohydrate, fructose, glucose syrups, hydrogenated oils. Don't have all of these pictured that I'm going to run through here, but I'm going to run through about 8 common ultra processed foods that are very popular to buy. Number one is breakfast cereals. It contains a lot of what I just mentioned, whereas a healthy swap, oats, as long as it's non-GMO, on the other hand, that in organic, I would do organic non-GMO, that contains one ingredient, oats. So that's a pretty clear healthy swap there. Protein bars, I touched on this in the module one, and protein bars and protein balls, they contain processed fibers, proteins, invert sugars, and non-caloric sweeteners, as far as and then in addition to, some have artificial sweeteners. We talked a little bit last week about plant-based milks. That's number three. They contain these emulsifiers, just fillers, vegetable gums, flavors. Not all brands are ultra processed, so check the ingredient list. Some soy milks only contain water, soybeans, oil, and salt. Now, if I am buying a soy milk, or if I don't, but if you choose to buy a soy milk, I would definitely buy non-GMO. Make sure that it is organic or non-GMO. Number four, breads and crackers. This is a big one, and I'm going to touch on this, I think, a little bit later and show you just a couple of healthy swaps. But again, emulsifiers, modified starches, vegetable gums, bad oils. And sometimes we tend to think, oh, bakery breads there in the grocery store section, that all those breads that kind of sit out in the middle, that those are okay, but read the labels on those too. They're often not. And five, yogurts, again, they contain a lot of additives, non-caloric sweeteners or flavors. I would choose plain yogurts instead, and I would definitely go with grass-fed and organic. That's just going to help the lessen the omega-6 content of that. Number six, this is kind of a big generic category, but meal bases and sauces. You'll see that label there in black in the lower left. That's an example of that. But pre-prepared pasta, stir-fry sauces, they contain a lot of thickeners, flavor enhancers, colors, but there's some simple sauces you can make at home with ingredients like canned tomatoes. You can buy those organic if you like. Vegetables, garlic, and herbs. Those are all minimally processed. So things like marinara, enchilada sauce, barbecue sauce. You can do healthy swaps of these, or you can make your own. And I'm going to provide you a lot of recipes in your workbook for some of these as well. Number seven, processed meats. These are packaged cold meats. They have emulsifiers, modified starches. This is one of the worst and I guess most highly processed food that you can buy. And if you can cut back on this and throw in some healthy swaps, maybe roast your own chicken, use your own, cook your own pot roast, and save this for your sandwich meats and things like that. It's just, they're all really, really carcinogenic in many cases. Nitrates and nitrites is one of the main things. You can buy a few of these without that, but they're still highly processed. But that is a better choice if you're going to buy them. And here's just some reasons why. Processed meat causes cancer, and you can find that anywhere. And it's primarily because of the industrial processing, the smoking, the curing, the extra salting, the added preservatives. All of that together creates carcinogenic compounds, and that's what damages the bowel lining. And so the research on cancer, there's a international agency for that. I believe the initials are IARC, and it classifies, you can go online and look for this yourself, but it actually classifies processed meat as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning the most dangerous, and that there is strong evidence that it does cause colorectal cancer. So some examples would be hot dogs, sausages, bacon, ham, salami, deli meat. So hopefully I've driven that point home for you. Number 8 is the margarine. I do have a picture of that here. And I would just say the category here is anything that's not real butter. The way that margarines and non-dairy spreads are made is by hydrogenating the vegetable oils. And the vegetable oils are already rancid, and then they go another processing step by hydrogenating them. And they, again, contain a lot of additives that I've already mentioned. And, unlike butter is cream and salt. It's a much better choice. I still say within moderation, you don't want to just, you know, use it, like it's going, too much. But I would use grass fed. Again, that's going to decrease your omega-6 uh, intake there. You'll see now. I'm going to talk a little bit about these labels here. Up at the top, you see a popular protein drink, especially for seniors, and you'll see the one on the left. I've kind of made a little joke there in saying that you're ensuring sickness. But here's what marketing does. On the front of this one, it'll advertise 9 grams of protein, 250 calories, and 26 vitamins and minerals. And really, when you start understanding what's in that small print on that label, what you are getting is over on the right, and that is 23 grams of sugar. That is well over just a daily intake, daily recommended intake, according to the American Heart Association. I believe for men, it's I don't know. I would anyway. It's going to be under 15 for our daily intake of added sugars, and this has 23. And most seniors, which is what this is marketed to, are already getting so much sugar and other things that they're just going to be drinking another 23 grams here and not even realizing it. There's also 2 rancid oils on this ingredient list, 1 neurotoxin, and 2 sources of toxic dairy. So that's just one example about how marketing can fool you. Another example is this mayo. It looks really good. It's got olive oil. I used to buy this before I got educated years ago. This was my go-to mayo because I'm like, it's olive oil, real good. But then if you look at the ingredients over here, yes, it does have olive oil, but what else does it have? Canola oil, soybean oil. Those are 2 rancid, highly processed oils. Modified food starch. Let's go on down. You have some coloring in there. We have no idea what that is. Some preservatives. You know, all kinds of things that we don't even know what it is. So I'm going to show you some healthier mayo choices a little bit later on another slide. Here's an example over on the left of this almond butter of how this can really fool you. And I took this photo myself at a grocery store because I had been buying this brand, and I'm not knocking this brand because I had been buying it, and all I saw on the ingredient label was what you see at the top: dry roasted organic almonds. And that's what you should see. The only other thing you should see in any nut butter other than the nut itself might be some filtered water and maybe some salt, and that's it. Um, the but sitting right beside, I noticed just a little different. Well, what I really noticed was a dollar difference in price, and they looked identical sitting right next to each other. I didn't take a picture of the other one because they literally looked both just like this on the front. But when you turned the ingredient label over, or when you turned the package over and read the ingredients, the one that was a dollar less actually had palm oil in it. There's no reason for it to contain palm oil, none at all. So you just always want to really be careful and not not believe what's on the front of the product, on the marketing side of the product, and look at that label. So, and then Jello, one of this is a Jello brand, but puddings or Jello itself, one of the most unhealthy things. There's really no food in this product at all. I know last week I pointed out the fact that it's a you'll probably see bioengineered product on it. I don't have that on this one, but you'll probably see that on most of them. And there is absolutely nothing on this label that is good. And there's a lot of carcinogens, especially in the dyes and the preservatives and everything else. And then it's it has aspartame, which is a known carcinogen as well. So I won't belabor that because I think I kind of drove my point there. So here I'm going to give you some healthy substitutes for the products over on the right that I have a big X for. And I chose these products again, Jello's on there, the soup, and then a hydration drink. Just because especially the Jello and the soup, we tend to grab those to include in a lot of recipes. So I'm going to give you a way to where you don't have to ditch the recipe. You can just make some simple, healthy swaps and still make those recipes that call for those ingredients without having to buy them. But first, let's just look here at a marinara sauce. I make my own a lot, but sometimes you don't have to. And this is one, if I was going to make my own, I would spend around $2 for a can of organic tomato sauce to start that process and then add my own spices and things like this. This is one that is organic and is $2.49. You can see it's an HEB brand, but there's a lot of different brands. And, it's a very, I would buy this easily. So you can sometimes save your money and time by buying it already made. Again, if you learn how to read the labels. Here's a good cracker swap that I do. I love the Simple Mills brand. Again, it's not the only good brand out there, but I use this one just because of the ingredient list here. You'll see that it is gluten-free and non-GMO verified. And a lot of times it does contain the USDA organic label. This one does not, but many times it does. So you want to look for that too. But a non-GMO is perfectly fine. And then your seasoning blends, I just want to point that out because if you look in your workbook, I'm going to give you a lot of different recipes for different seasoning blends for tacos, chilies, all kinds of things, some dressings, things like that. So let's get on to how to substitute this soup and Jello. A simple, healthy substitute for one can, I think this is like a 10 and a half ounce can of a cream of chicken or cream of mushroom, whatever soup. Most of the time we use these in casseroles, is a mixture of 1 cup of milk or cream, if you like, combined with 2 tablespoons of melted butter and 3 tablespoons of gluten-free flour, non-GMO flour, or 1 tablespoon of organic cornstarch if you don't want to use flour. And will be used to thicken it. I also use arrowroot powder a lot for thickening. And then you'll season it to taste. So when I'm making the cream of mushroom, just to give you an example of how to make that, I will put my I will saute my mushrooms in the melted butter. So say the 2 tablespoons of melted butter, saute them down until they're cooked down a little bit. And then I'll add my milk, or usually for the cream of mushroom, especially if it's a chicken-based casserole, I will just use a combination of milk and chicken broth. So you can kind of, depending on your recipe, know what to use for your liquid. And again, season. For Jello, I haven't tried a lot of these. I really haven't found a good alternative for Jello, but if you still want to use a lot of Jello, I just decided, you know what, I only have one recipe that I really like to use Jello in, and so I've just replaced that with the unflavored gelatin, and it works just fine in my cranberry salad. I only make that at Christmas time, and actually I liked it a lot better. And it called for 2 packages of cherry Jello, and I just used the unflavored gelatin, and it was actually better because you could taste more of the cranberry flavor instead of so much cherry. So anyway, there's a powder flakes called Agar Agar, AGAR dash AGAR. This is a vegan alternative. It's made from seaweed. You can use 1 teaspoon of powder to replace the 1 teaspoon of gelatin. It sets up very fast and very firm, so you want to pay attention to that. Again, I've already mentioned cornstarch or arrowroot. There's another brand called Bakewell Gel Dessert. I have not used that, but I I've heard that that's a really good one. Again, I've just decided not to go to the trouble, but chia seeds are good for yogurts, overnight oats for kind of that gel texture. And then as far as hydration drinks go here, I'm going to show you something to be aware of on another slide, but one of the things that I would do instead of grabbing this is just start out the day to get you really hydrated. And I always say it's not about the amount of water you drink, it's about how much you absorb. So, to help you absorb water throughout the day, put some salt, some good Himalayan salt or mine salt, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, in your water to start out the day. Maybe a little fresh fruit or squeeze some lemon. If you want to sweeten it, use a little bit of pure organic stevia. Whatever you want to do, but something other than grabbing one of these drinks that are filled with carcinogens, toxins, either sugar or artificial sweetener that are carcinogenic. So those that's just a but the mixes I'm going to talk there's a lot of different hydration mixes out there, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. Uh, so I think I talked about the uh, the see, yeah, I talked about all of them. I'm just trying to I get away from my notes. I have some notes written down and I get away from my notes because I things pop in my head, and so I have to go back to my notes and make sure I've talked about everything that I want to talk about here. So here we go are some healthy swaps for condiments. And I wanted to really focus on the ketchup because I know I use this in a lot of different dressings that I make. I have a spinach salad dressing that I use ketchup in, and other things. I like to, put it on meatloaf if I make meatloaf. So I use a lot. I don't use a lot of ketchup just to eat it, but I do cook with it a lot, and maybe you do too. So if that's the case, I wanted to kind of go over a lot of the choices, and this is where you'll just have to, get the education, get all kind of take it all in, and then decide what's important to you. The one over on the left uh, really is kind of it has 3 grams of sugar, and when you see that ingredients that sugar is the second thing on the list, that means that sugar is making up a big part of this. It is organic, so I like that about it. But when you see the 3 grams of added sugar, you don't think that's a lot, but when you consider that that's per serving size, depending on how you're using that, that could actually end up being a lot of added sugar in your recipe if you're using like a quarter of a cup or something like that. So I kind of I keep a couple of different ketchups in my refrigerator, and so when if I'm going to use something that's going to call for quite a bit of ketchup, I would not use this one with the added sugar like that. The second one, and I put the prices up here because a lot of times, higher price doesn't necessarily mean better. This Heinz uh, tomato ketchup, it is not organic. So when you see that natural flavoring in the uh, ingredient list, you don't know what the source of that natural flavoring is, but it is a zero added sugar. So that proves right there that and I've actually had this ketchup before, and it tastes really good. And so it just proves that we really don't need sugar in our ketchups. And then the last one down there on the right is the one I've put the check mark on. So that's probably the one I would personally buy between these three. I love the price. It's actually the less expensive, and to me, overall, it's the better with only 2 grams of added sugar per serving. And the ingredient list, I'm going to try to move this bar. I'm not sure if that's showing on your end or not, but that should let the ingredient list show. You'll see that everything is organic. I just really like this one. Again, just because of the 2 grams of added sugar and it's organic. You can find organic with zero added sugar. There, I think Primal Kitchen might make one, and you'll see there's my healthier forms of mayo up there, and even a ranch dressing throw in. I really like the Primal Kitchen brand for condiments especially, and then the Chosen brand is good too. So you'll just have to decide what you like. I included mustard in here because a lot of times we think, oh, mustard, that first ingredient, that'd be fine. Look, there's no big words, no preservatives, nothing I wouldn't have in my pantry at home. Distilled vinegar, water, mustard seed, salt, turmeric, paprika, and spices. That key word is spices because it's not organic. That can literally be anything. That can be MSG. That can be a lot of sodium. It could be chemicals, it can be anything because it's not organic. And then you look at the organic yellow mustard, which is less in price. Now, it probably is a little bit less in quantity too. I can't read. I think that's going to be 9 ounces. Probably the other one is 12 to 13, 14 ounces, something like that. But it's still a pretty good sized bottle, and all the ingredients are organic, and you don't even have the word spices in there. So that's those are some good examples for that. Now let's real quickly go through barbecue sauce. If we're not making our own, we'll go through here on this Ray's sugar added. You'll just see a whole lot of red circles that I've done that I've circled in the ingredient list: the natural smoke flavor, preservatives, sucralose, that's an artificial sweetener, a lot of things in that we don't even know when it's not organic, and you don't know, and you have the word natural or flavorings or sweeteners or anything, you have no idea what that is. So I would definitely, even though the front of it looks really good and it doesn't have any added sugar, I would still not buy this one. This Yo Mama's I haven't tried. I found this one online. It would probably be one that I would order, although it's not organic, but just because of what I saw on the website, I just had a good feeling about it. And sometimes you have to go with that, especially when the ingredient list, even though it's not organic, there's nothing on there other than that natural smoke flavor. And again, I just tend to more trust this private, smaller label online only. I don't think that they ship this to stores versus more of a big box brand that the one on the left is. Here is my pick over on the right. Again, the Primal Kitchen. This is, I was saying you can get this in the ketchup as well. It's, you know, no added sugars, organic. It checks all the boxes as far as the ingredients go. Now, some other healthy swaps instead of soy sauce, lower sodium content. It's also non-GMO because it is a soy product. Anything soy, again, I would always make sure it's non-GMO. Is the Bragg's liquid aminos, and then instead of teriyaki sauce, your coconut liquid aminos. And then what about Worcestershire sauce? Why is Worcestershire sauce not good? It's high in sodium. Just a single tablespoon has about 167 milligrams of sodium, has a lot of added sugar, syrups, molasses. Many of the brands have a high fructose corn syrup on the ingredient list, which, you know, that's linked to metabolic health issues. There's even some hidden ingredients in some of their ingredients labels. You'll just see preservatives, artificial colors, natural flavors, all those words we've talked about that we really don't know what the source of them is. And then there's some allergen and dietary concerns with it containing a lot of them contain anchovies, often gluten, and you know, it's just not suitable for vegans, vegetarians, and those with allergies or celiac disease. So I would just you know, it's hard to find a healthy one. I'm not saying it's not out there. You would have to look for it, but in the workbook, I have a recipe for you to be able to make your own Worcestershire sauce if that's something that you would like to do. So let's talk salt. Salt is necessary. It does prevent hydration. I want you to listen because we hear the word salt and we automatically think negatively towards salt and to cut back on it. And actually, there was some studies done that showed that these were thousands and thousands of people in the study, which is the type of studies I like to look at over a long period of time. Those are the best kind of studies when you're considering them. And they had two groups of people, the high sodium uh, intake and then low sodium intake. Both groups of people over about 20 years both experienced more higher death rates than those that didn't have either low or high. In other words, the people that were the group that was right in the middle. And so that just proved that, you know, there's some dangers in too much sodium, but there's also dangers in too low. But it is necessary. As I mentioned, it's going to prevent dehydration. It can actually lower blood pressure in the right amounts because it's pulling more fluid into our tissue and less into our bloodstream. It can support muscle function, or it does support muscle function. It supports nerve health, supports nutrient absorption, aids in digestion, a lot of benefits, but which one you choose does matter. And so really there's three different types here: a bad, a better, and a best. The bad and the better, both processed, which is more like your table salt, and your sea salt, they're both processed. The table salt is processed a lot more, but so that's why it's not as good, and it has some additives, usually caking agents and chemicals. But the table salt and the sea salt is both 98% sodium chloride, which is the salt. And in the case, you know, of table salt, it does have those extra additives. But sea salt has additives too. Not that they add anything to it, but what you've got to realize is in the processing where you're taking sea water and you're dehydrating it down to just pull the salt out of the water, but you're also pulling out everything else that's in that water. And one of the biggest things, there's other things too. There's mercury and there's also, but microplastics is one of the biggest things to be concerned about. So when you're consuming sea salt, you're also consuming microplastics. So what is the best? It is mine salt. It's 85% sodium chloride, and then 15% is essential minerals because it's mined right out of the earth. And that the essential minerals is important because this is what's powering all of the natural processes in your body. So I've listed three here that any kind of U.S. mine salt is good. Celtic salt or Himalayan salt is good. So I've included this hydration drink label up here because this is like a powder. I just pulled it off. It looks good. It's non-GMO, gluten-free. Some of this stuff doesn't really matter because a hydration drink wouldn't have dairy in it anyway and vegan. So I mean, sometimes they put these little symbols on there to or icons on there to make it look good, and it wouldn't have that in it anyway. So it's not like they're taking it out or whatever. But look at the first two ingredients: sugar, cane sugar, and dextrose. There's no reason. Well, I can see why you might have a little sugar in but in a hydration drink, but definitely not the first two ingredients. But the key thing here is salt. It doesn't tell you what kind of salt. So more than likely, when anything just says salt, it's going to be table salt. Um, so there's some other words in here that you would want to be aware of. So when you're buying your powdered hydration drink mixes, just be aware. You want to read the labels on those as well. Okay, let's get into, and again, this is kind of where I thought, oh wow, there's just so much to cover. So we're going to go through this really quick, but we want to talk about because what you're putting in your body, whether processed foods, salt, whole foods, it all impacts your gut microbiome. And all this is trillions of of bacteria in your digestive tract, and it's an essential ecosystem, kind of like a garden. So you definitely want to take it serious. It controls almost all of your immune system, all of your digestion, your mood, and it thrives on fiber-rich plant foods. It thrives on exercise. It thrives on stress management. Uh, your diet, your sleep, your lifestyle. It all really works together in a synergistic way to in a positive or a negative way, depending on what you're doing in those areas of your life. Um, you know, again, hydration, all of this stuff is important. So, without getting into, I'm going to put a lot more um, information in your workbook instead of talking about it here, so you can go back and read a little bit more. So I'll put a lot of content in your workbook as far as this goes. So let's go on to your brain health. Um, you know, here the main thing when it comes to brain health, you've got to talk about inflammation. Um, this inflammation impacts the brain by triggering an immune response, and that that immune response now, this is called neuroinflammation, is what that's called. And initially that can be in a protective way, which is something we need. But if it normally doesn't stay protective and it lingers on, causing chronic inflammation, chronic damage, leading to, and this is where we see cognitive decline, memory loss, brain fog, mood disorders. It's disrupting the communication between our neurons. It's killing our brain cells, and it's going to heighten the risk of common diseases that you've heard of, as far as Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's different types of things that cause this physical trauma, obviously, but so can systemic illnesses like infections, pathogens, illnesses in other places in the body, especially in the gut. That's why we talk about the gut brain connection. So if you're you hear about gut related diseases, like irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis. There's a lot of different ones. They're all very similar, but this is going to affect your brain health as well. So again, and all of that, guess what all of that is related to? Inflammation. So if you can really get to the root cause of your inflammation, you're going to be helping your health in so many ways. Um, I like to call this inflammaging as well. So, uh, it's hard to know what comes first, the chicken or the egg here, because aging is a lot of times called by inflammation, and that's why we say inflammation uh, triggers aging. It's all working together. But a lot of things that play into this: chronic stress, lifestyle, uh, all kinds of things that you would want to take. And again, I'm going to put some more stuff about this in your workbook. But the most important thing is going over to number 3 here on our boxes and really taking inventory and increasing your awareness in what's going on in your life, as far as how are you paying attention to microplastics? We already talked about that a little bit, but there's other sources. How many times a day are you grabbing a plastic water bottle instead of you know drinking from a um, stainless steel, or a BPA free bottle? There's all kinds of different ones that you can do. There's so many external. We're consuming. We've already talked about processed foods and a lot of things where we're consuming a lot of toxins, but there's a lot of external toxins we have some control over, and we want to be aware of that. Heavy metals is one of them. This all of More information about all of this is going to be in your workbook, but pay attention to what is in your home, as far as products that you're using, cleaning products, anything with the word. We talked about the word spices. Well, the word fragrance can contain about hundreds and hundreds of different chemicals. That in that one word of fragrance is usually about hundreds of different types of chemicals that make up that one word, or it can. So it's all about just really identifying some of these things. Some of the things I'll mention, it'll also be in your workbook. As far as heavy metals go, is spices that you have that you're using in your cooking, and using organic teas and coffee and rice. Those are kind of my 4 go-to that I really pay attention to, that I buy organic. There are tons more, but again, let's keep it simple, and maybe that's something you want to research and really make your own choice about what's your top 4 that you want to really cut down on and pay attention to. And then the solution for all of this, it's good to be aware, but what are some solutions? Number 1, get outdoors, practice grounding. Sweat. That's one of the best detoxes that you can do, whether it's in a sauna, or you're getting out and working in the yard or the garden and sweating, which you can do in the summertime. Uh, have a daily morning routine. Get some first light of the day. Get some fresh air, some breathing exercises. This all helps with your managing your stress level. And you can even do special testing. I offer some very affordable testing for gut health and A1C, which we haven't even talked about, blood sugar yet. And the most important one to me is inflammation markers, because your doctors don't offer that one at all. And if even if you request it, it costs a lot out of pocket just to get one marker tested in your CRP. So these are some of the things I can offer. You can even get a heavy metal test if you feel like you've really been exposed. Most people haven't been exposed in some of those ways, other than what I've already mentioned. But if you suspect that, there's even a heavy metal test. I don't offer that one, but there are some out there to get. Okay, so as we're getting close to wrapping it up here, so just hang in there with me. I promised you I would talk a little bit about supplements and uh, and how to help your metabolism as well. Now, metabolism really is a lot of it, not all, but all I'm going to touch on in this module is your blood sugar balance. And so that's over on the right. We'll get there, but let's talk about some supplements. What's the most important? For the foundation, this is really what I recommend. Uh, even and I didn't even talk about for heavy metals. There is a supplement out there if you feel like you want to do something on a daily basis to just kind of flush those and detox those heavy metals out. There are some good supplements for that. I don't consider them a foundational one, but if that's something uh, you would want to look for supplements that have chlorella and um, oh, drawing a blank. Fulvic acid. Yeah. So I don't have this in my notes, so I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. So that would be something when we have our call. If you want to ask me more about that, I can tell you what to look for as far as a detox supplement for heavy metals. But again, there's a whole lot of supplements just like that one that are really great that I consider the windows of your supplement. These are the foundation. When you're building a house, you can't put the windows in until you have a strong foundation. And so these are the foundational ones. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about in this. And that is a really high quality multivitamin mineral. A vitamin D3, but you're wasting your money if you're taking a D3 without the K2 mixed with it for the absorption and to get that D3 where it needs to go. Omega 3, that's my number one. I would take that above anything else, but again, high quality. There's hundreds and hundreds out there, and none of these supplements are created equal, especially your omega 3s and especially, well, any of them. So one of the key things to distinguish when you're looking for an omega 3 is make sure it's not only sourced properly, but also has polyphenols. That's going to improve absorption and transport those omegas to where they're working at the cellular level in your body. Again, I can give you more information when we talk. And then a greens powder and or spirulina. And then obviously none of us get enough fiber. So most people should be supplementing fiber. Again, everybody's different. So I keep talking about when we have our call, and I highly recommend you scheduling this free call with me because you might be someone that's eating so many leafy greens and you're including so much fiber in your diet, you don't need to supplement fiber. So this is just kind of my general recommendation for a foundation for the average person. So what do you look for as far as quality when you're going to buy these supplements and you want to make sure you get quality? I put just a few things here down. Third-party testing is very important, not only of the entire supplement, but you want to make sure that they're testing the actual raw ingredients that are going into into the supplements, and doing double-blind placebo testing, clinical studies, scientific, studies, products that are backed by science, and not just the entire product, but I mean, a lot of times when a company or a brand will say backed by science, they're talking about, oh, it's got vitamin D, so they use that science, but they're not talking about the entire product, and how synergistically it's backed by science. They don't have the studies and the science, clinically or in the lab, to prove that that product is going to do what they can claim it's going to do, because they haven't done the studies on the actual product. They're using studies on the individual ingredients, if that makes sense to you. And then protein, what do you do for protein? This could be like a whole nother 5-hour course, okay? So here's just some tips for you. You want to focus on whole food sources, such as eggs, chicken, fish, Greek yogurt, lentils. Some simple strategies as far as getting protein into your bodies include snacking on nuts or cheese sticks. In other words, snack on proteins, not on carbs. And prioritizing your protein to be first on your plate, and just don't overcomplicate it. And then if necessary, use some protein shakes to fill in the gaps. But again, when you're using ingredients and protein powders, reading those labels and getting a quality one is super, super, super important. And then we'll talk about blood sugar. I already said, well, I don't think I did. Yeah, I did say start the day with a protein, eat protein for snacks. So those are all going to help with your blood sugar. And exercise, walking 10 to 15 minutes after a meal. Hydration plays a big part in blood sugar. Stress, getting quality sleep, exercising regularly. You want to shoot for at least a minimum of 150 minutes per week, and then limit your simple sugars in your drinks. Again, we've talked about all of this labels, so you know how to identify them now, and identify refined starches, and understand how they're going to affect your blood sugar. I think white potatoes are a really good, nutritious whole food to eat, but you do want to pay attention to how they affect your blood sugar, and eat them within moderation. Excess alcohol, I think that's kind of a no-brainer, that everybody knows it's going to have a big spike on your blood sugar. So, kind of some tips to lower your blood sugar, if that's something that's really a concern for you, is limit the white stuff and be selective when consuming carbs, because carbs are turning into sugar, especially your simple carbs are turning into sugar as soon as you put them into your body. And then just understand what triggers your blood sugar spikes, because everybody's different, and that's something I can talk through with you as well. For that, one of the things that I didn't talk about on protein that I meant to is, a common question I get is, how much protein should I be consuming? And this is going to be different for females versus males. This is going to depend on your activity level. This is going to be dependent on, or this is going to vary depending on how old you are. So I can't give you an exact number, but I can say a good rule of thumb that kind of fits in the middle of all of that is 1 gram of protein for half of your body weight. So if you weigh, let's just say, obviously 100 pounds, you would want 50 grams of protein. Most people weigh in between 100 and 200 pounds, the average person. So anywhere between, I would say, probably 75 grams of protein for the average person. And that's something that is is not easily achieved on a daily basis if you're not paying attention to it. So again, the older you are, the more protein you need. Men need more than women, but women that are athletes or very active during the day, if you're working out every day, you're going to demand, or you're going to require more protein as well. So I hope that that helped. Here's some next steps. Congratulations, you know more than most people do now. Please review your workbook. It is going to be your guide that will continue to guide you. It's not to just read through one time, but definitely go back to it. Most importantly, book that call with me. This should be a clickable link, but on the next slide, I have the actual link, and it will also be in your workbook. And take things in small step. And these are 3 questions that also appear in your workbook, but definitely take the time to answer these. So you have a plan. You're creating your own plan. And then just start asking yourself on a daily basis, is what I'm choosing today building my future health? And if you can, and none of us are perfect. We're never going to eat perfect, but if awareness is so much of it, and we talked a lot about that today. So thank you very much for participating in this class. I hope that I gave you more value than, or adequate value, more than adequate value than what you paid for it. And obviously, if you don't feel like you got the value, I always offer that money back guarantee. You may or may not have known that, so I wanted to mention that. I always want to give people what they are needing and exceed those expectations. So there is the link to book your call with me. And again, I recommend that you booking this call after you've really gone through the workbook, gone through both of these modules, and at least have your head wrapped around this, so you have good questions to ask, and we can make it personal and talk just about what's a good plan for you, and I'll help you identify that and work through a good plan to start with. So thanks again, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.